Today, we are looking at how to turbo your recruiters. And obviously, I'm really excited about this one because this is definitely something that many of our clients are really looking to achieve. They're looking to get more productivity, more pipeline, etc. So let's move forward and let's see how we can get on with helping you out with these today. And obviously, take lots of notes, keep us posted on how you're finding automation. And for obvious reasons, let us know if we can help. So obviously, I'm Lisa and this is Wayne, and we do three things. We are focused on recruitment training. Really good at that. Bullhorn first is our mantra. So we work with lots of businesses to help them weaponize their Bullhorn estate, is probably a polite way of putting it. And automation is a big deal for us. And very soon as well, analytics. So we have Recruitment Hit, which some of you saw a little trailer of at the beginning of this webinar. So keep us posted. Some of you are existing clients. Others, we'd love you to try out Hit. It's got a wealth of really cool training on from Bullhorn, analytics automation, as well as pure recruitment training, time management, all that lovely stuff. And we've got some really big fans in terms of how we've helped clients realize their vision from a Bullhorn perspective, and obviously ultimately making more money from the system and saving time and effort elsewhere. Wayne, tell us a little bit about our buddy program when it comes to automation.
So several of our clients, or many of our clients, basically want that little bit of extra help occasionally with automation. So we've got a buddy program, so we can train our existing users or new users. Those people who want a bit of coaching, they want some support, they want some confidence building. We'll sit down with you, we'll coach, we'll talk to you about your automations, we'll even check your automations. Or for those of you who just don't have time, we'll sit down and build the automations for you.
Absolutely. We call buddy, basically, it's all about giving you a big squeeze. And sometimes when you give people a squeeze, they just want a bit of reassurance. Other times they literally want to be picked up and carried. So make buddy yours. We're doing some really good work here, especially with clients who maybe are looking at their automation, sat on the drive, feeling like it's really expensive. And we're like, no, let's not do that. Let's get the platform running and let's drive it for you, worst case scenario. This is where your technology can actually do some work. So grab your phones. Now, we've not got a webinar in August because we think most of you are going to be on a beach, we hope, automating yourselves. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But grab your phones, take a picture and use this little graphic to help you register for our September webinar. Now, we're starting a new series of webinars in September all around ROI, okay? Return on investment, and a lot of our clients are using return on effort as well, which we really like. So return on investment, we're starting off with account management because damn it, you can sell more to your existing clients than you realize. And why are we so fixated on new business development when there's a crazy amount of business already hidden in our Bullhorn system? And we need to find that old and turn it to gold. Good stuff. So grab your phones, get yourself registered for this webinar in September, and then you can obviously sit back and relax because you won't have anything else to do between now and then. We're obviously fixated on Bullhorn first. This is a big cultural thing. Before we started using Bullhorn, when Wayne and I worked together back in the early 2000s, we used to use the term CRM first. You know, get on the system first before you go anywhere else. And some of our clients, our Bullhorn first clients, are on the webinar today, and they're on a journey with us to help them get the recruiters using the system more effectively, to get the data clean so people trust it more and use it and weaponize it, and ultimately just to make sure that they don't have to spend a lot of time and money using other stuff. LinkedIn and job boards love it when you do that. I'm not sure that you guys and gals enjoy that process as much as you realize, or you enjoy the amount of money and time you're wasting looking for stuff that you've already got. Yeah. So Bullhorn first, grab that. We're starting off again with sales in September, and we're going to continue throughout the year with some really hot topics. Right. I'm going to move forward. Just bear in mind, please, we've got a crazy amount of tips on our website. The ones that we're most proud of, I think, apart from these webinars, are these 1-minute tips. Some of you have already engaged with them because I can see that you're existing clients already. So obviously, just bear in mind, we've got these 1-minute tips. They take a minute to watch, and they are tips, and lots of stuff in there, from BD through to automation, through to quicker sourcing, generating more business, being more productive. So 1 minute, get a tip, get on with it, get on with your day. But a few stats to set the tone. We've got here a few stats which are not great from a human perspective. And these are average, and maybe your own team and yourselves are above average. Maybe you're superhuman and none of this applies to you because you are perfect and you don't get distracted by everything going on around you. You can work on a million things all at once. You've got 15 arms and 14 keyboards, or maybe you're just mere mortals and actually you get to the end of the day and sometimes wonder what the hell you did with your time, or how you managed to make any money in the first place, or if you could have that day again, oh God, would you rinse and not repeat? You'd get rid of loads of stuff that was distracting. So whilst you're working with Wayne on this webinar and the ideas he's going to give you for productivity, focus on the fact that we are mere mortals. So we need to use our systems and processes to compensate for that, is probably a polite way of putting it. Right then, so we're going to be talking about automation, and I want you to think about two specific things while we're talking about this. This is really important because you can automate a crazy amount of stuff. And a lot of clients, when they come to us from a buddy perspective, have either got too many automations switched on that there's no governance and they can't really generate any ROI, they can't see it, or maybe they've been too cautious and not enough is switched on. So I want you to think about two things. What can you automate into a recruitment consultant's day? What can you do for them to make their lives easier? What can you do to shine a light on best practice, speed, cheating, whatever you want to call it? How can you make their jobs easier by automating in things that you want them to do? Yeah. And equally, what can you remove? What can you take out of a recruiter's job? What can you iron out the road with a massive steamroller? Make it so they can go faster on the best lit up roller skates going. How can you remove repetitive tasks that actually create excuses for a lack of sales time? What can you do to make sure that candidates don't get distracted by other clients? What can you make sure other competitors, and what can you do to make sure that jobs are placed quicker? How can you automate out the stuff that gets in the way of a great day? Yeah. And here's just something to think about. This is something I say to all of my clients, is when you're asking yourself, what should I automate? And you're saying, well, I'm trying to get my staff bought in, I'm trying to get my recruiters bought in, because often they are the blockers to a great automation strategy. The question you should not be asking is, what do I want to automate? The question you have to be asking is, what gets in the way of a great sale? What gets in the way of your placement ratios going down from 40 days to 25 days? What gets in the way of you increasing your prices? What gets in the way of higher conversions? Ask those questions. What's getting in the way? Get it out of the way, and then create a real force for good with automation. So be thinking about that. So I'm always the warm-up act, and evidently, lucky you didn't even have to get to look at me today, but trust me, my makeup is amazing. So I'm going to hand you over to Wayne now, and he's going to talk to you all about how to turbo your recruiters and ultimately your business with automation. Good luck, Wayne.
Thanks very much. Obviously, my makeup looks great as well. So thank you very much, Lisa. So today I'm going to be talking about a couple of areas specifically. Automation's the easy part, getting recruiters to engage with the automations and the data you send through to them. That's more of the challenging part of automation. So I want to be focused around building automations, but also the things that you need to be thinking about in order to try and get your recruiters and the business to engage with the data that you're sending them. A couple of lots of hints and tips that I'm going to provide you today. We're going to talk about call lists. That's specifically one area that we're going to be talking about today. Call lists. I'm going to use the example of client at risk and lapse clients, but there's millions of different call lists you can create, and I've got some other examples that I want to share with you. Vacancies. If you're vacancy short currently, making sure that you engage with vacancies is really, really important, and making sure that your recruiters are engaging with vacancies. There's some things that you can now do in Bullhorn Automation that will help drive activity within the vacancy, or alternatively highlight that there's a lack of activity. I want to talk about post-placement follow-ups. I want to talk about application follow-ups. I really want to talk about a little bit about consent and PECR. And obviously, we've got a bonus Bullhorn tip for you as well today. Very quickly, poll, put a number in. How engaged are your recruiters with the notifications that you currently send through to them? But put a 1 if they're not, 2 if they're okay, 3 if they're highly engaged and they do everything with it all the time. What we tend to see with automation is that there's an awful lot of notifications that get sent out, and eventually recruiters just go blind to them, which is really frustrating because there's some really good data in there. So notifications be careful about how often and what you send to your recruiters. That would be my recommendation. Send really relevant information and notification. Otherwise, try and use hot lists. Hot lists or tear sheets is a way in which you can get information back into Bullhorn and give your recruiters ways and means of being able to sort of filter and sort that. I've got a really great example of that in a minute in any case. Lots and lots of ones. Probably people going blind to the notifications. First recommendation is try and limit the number of notifications that you send out. If you're already sending out lots, then it's a really great opportunity, especially over summer. Summer's coming up, nobody's around, lots and lots of admin time. Go through all of your automations and look at the number of notifications you're sending out. That would be my first number of tip, and reduce them. Yeah, that's another thing I would do. Look, call lists. One of my clients came to me a long time ago and said, look, I just want to be able to generate call lists for recruiters. Brilliant. Great idea. So we started off with the classic ones, clients at risk. I define a client at risk as a client that we've made placements with in the last 12 months, but we've not had a job. There's been no notes and there's been no submissions, no activity against that sales contact in the last 3 months. So you've got an opportunity of trying to nurture and make sure that your recruiters are nurturing those people. A lapsed client to me is somebody from 12 months onwards, maybe up to 3 years, whereby it's the same principle. We've had no jobs, we've had no notes, very little activity with that lapsed client. Another classic thing to look at is the number of sales contacts that you've had placements with, whereby the owner is inactive. You've got people that you should be speaking to, but nobody's taking ownership of those people. So make sure part of your starters and leavers process is you reassign that data, or you at least make it available to people so that they can see that and they can get into that and review that. Typical call lists, key accounts. You need to keep in contact with those key accounts. You need to be messaging and engaging with those sales contacts on a regular basis. Again, a bit like clients at risk, which key accounts are we not engaging with? Which key accounts don't have an active Bullhorn user? Those are the sorts of lists that you can create, forward those onto your recruiters, escalate them using that reports to field potentially if they get stuck or they're not engaging with it. Sales contact website visits is a great example. I'm going to give you an example of that in a second. Considerations, well, if you're going to be looking at key accounts, how do you identify key accounts in your Bullhorn system? It's really easy to say, well, it's got loads of accounts. Some clients have started using, a lot of clients actually, they started using the grading system, ABCs. That gives you some way of being able to identify these are people of value that we need to be keeping in contact with. You can be doing the same as well. We do it with candidates to a certain degree, but we can also be doing it with jobs as well. Something we've started doing, again, this is more notification focused. If you're sending it notifications, obviously if you send it the same style of notification every time, then people will go blind to it. So something we've started doing is starting to put a logo or changing the background of the header, giving it some indication of, oh, green means that it's a candidate at the start of the process. Amber means we're at the job phase. Red means we're at the placement phase. So it's just a different way of being able to visualize the information that's being sent through to the recruiter to make them understand what that notification is trying to do without them having to read it. That was the idea. I came up with this gold, silver, bronze process, but I got shot down, and rightly so, because gold means it's really important you should do it, while silver and bronze means that you don't need to do it, potentially. So don't go down that route, but try and identify and change the way in which notifications are sent through and give some information back to your recruiters so they know what's going on. Send notifications to your recruiters you need to automate. Add them to hot lists or tear sheets or favorite searches. This is something I'm going to show you in a minute, but the idea, if you send a notification and they don't engage with it, well, change the process. Yeah, upload the information into a hot list. Create a favorite search based around that hot list so that your recruiters can very quickly go and find that list and then be able to filter on their specific data potentially. That's a better way of working. Try that instead. You must train your recruiters to engage with the information that you're sending through to them, and your managers have to take responsibility for following up that information. It's no good that you send a notification and assume that everyone's engaging with it. You have to assume the opposite. You have to assume they're not. So what processes are you putting in place? What morning meetings are you having whereby people have received information? So an opportunity to go through that and say, what results did you get from that list yesterday? Build the notifications or the hot lists into your daily reviews or your weekly reviews if you have weekly notifications being sent out. So yeah, train people, engage them, follow up. Don't forget, you've now got that wonderful owner reports to field that you should be using to escalate information as well. So call lists are great. You have to get people to engage with them, and there's lots of little hints and tips in there that I've just provided that should hopefully do help you with that. So here's one example of what we did recently. Client came to us and said, look, we want to look at anybody that's been on the website. So we said, well, let's run a campaign, or let's see what campaigns you've already run, and let's look at the data. And what we did is build a hot list. We built a hot list and said, look, there's 81 people that have been on the website in the last 30 days. We think they're in that person's name, that owner's name. So let's send that through to them. So we created a hot list. From that, within 24 hours, he'd made 22 calls. So we got some ROI from that. He found 3 jobs from making 22 phone calls. 1 job for himself, 2 jobs for other people in his team that do different roles. So we're now expanding that beyond just Sean. Let's see, here's Sean. Doing that for the whole of the business. And we're using a hot list and a favorite search to be able to sort of tell people, here's a list of data, go in there, filter the information around the owner or what you currently own or what's in your name. You might want to just filter it on speciality or categories, etc., etc. But that's the idea of using that information. We've got a success. We're promoting that success across the business. They're really, really engaged and wanting that information to be sent out to them. So it's a really good use case that whereby we've had a really good result. Okay. Driving your recruiters to work on the most relevant vacancies and jobs. There's a lot of little tools that you can use within vacancies, the jobs automations that will help recruiters and your business focus on whether or not you're actively working the right jobs, and those jobs, are they having the right level of activity against them. It's very easy for you to, in your morning meeting, sit down and go, hey, get in with jobs, and your route goes, brilliant, and then you move on. Well, actually, the system can help you analyze whether or not Johnny is saying that he's doing a good enough job with his vacancies. So there's a couple of tools. Ideas that I've had previously are vacancies. Yeah, if you've got SLAs in place, specific timeframes that you need to get back to a client in order to upload CVs. If you're one of those tier 1 suppliers, now one of my clients deals with a bank. They've got to get CVs back within 48 hours. It's not a great recruitment process. I think that breeds a certain element of speed as opposed to quality. But their idea is that if they haven't got people shortlisted within 24 hours, the bells and whistles need to go off in the business so that they can identify why we haven't done the work. Is there a problem? Are you overworked? Can I hand that over to somebody else to do, etc., etc., rather than get to the 48 hours and go, oh, I've got nobody for it. Yeah, that's the proactive approach of building that automation. So vacancy, looking at live jobs in the last 24, 48 hours, and then just saying no shortlists added within the last 24 hours. That would help you identify inactivity against those new jobs. You may, if you want to have a grading system, really focus around A grade jobs, B grade jobs, etc., etc. Another opportunity that you've got, there is this option within the jobs list criteria that says if you've got X number of shortlisted candidates or submitted candidates. So if you know that you've got a certain number of candidates that you should always shortlist, if you know it takes 50 candidates to speak to, and you think that your recruiters are not doing enough of the research or not doing enough of the work, then build an automation that says show many jobs whereby the shortlist numbers are less than X number, whichever your KPI is. The other one as well is close and rejected. So we don't see enough of closing and rejecting of candidates. Really great candidate experiences. We're going to close the job down. We're going to reject you. And we're going to tell you potentially why you've been rejected. Lots of people don't like that. They don't want to tell the candidate they've been rejected because they're fearful of the candidate phoning up. Well, if you preempt that, then that should be a better journey. And if you also use or incorporate something into the email which says, look, you've been unsuccessful with this role, but we've got these roles as well. Here's our website. Why don't you have a look at these, or something along those lines? That would be really beneficial to the candidate. It's a great candidate experience. So ideas here, which is identify different timeframes for perm and contract. Perm, you've probably got a lot more time. Temp contract, you've probably got a very short amount of time, so you want to make sure that people are working as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Do you understand what your ratio is from shortlists to interviews? One of our clients knows that they've got every KPI mapped out. They know in order to make a placement, they have to get 3 candidate interviews. In order to get 3 candidate interviews, they need to send over 10 CVs per interview. So if you start extrapolating that information back, that should give you the number of candidates that need to be shortlisted against the job. So you can start building your automation to be able to identify within 24, 48 hours, we should have this. Within 84 hours, or whatever that number is going to be, we've got this additional number of people on board. That just goes to show which vacancies are being proactively managed and which ones may have got stuck that managers need to sort of get involved with. Another idea as well is in terms of the rejection, you can have more than one rejection status within your submission or shortlisting status. So one of our clients, they've got 8, I think it is. You've been rejected because there was a better candidate. You've been rejected because there was an internal. Been rejected because they closed the job, or it's on hold, etc., etc. By doing that and using that status, you can then merge that into the email template and say, you've been rejected because of X. So lots and lots and lots of things that you can be thinking of regarding the recruitment vacancy applicant tracking process, and making sure there's lots and lots of activity that's going against that vacancy. Gave you an example a second ago. One of our clients says there's a 74% likelihood of a placement if they get 3 interviews arranged. So if you go on to the next slide, please, Lisa. That requires then, they say that they need a minimum of 25 candidates shortlisted and submitted against the job within, I think it's 100 and something hours, 3 or 4 days that they're giving their recruiters to be able to go away and do all of that. So there is a stat that basically says within 24 hours, they should have 10 candidates. Within 3 or 4 days, they should have X number of candidates, etc., etc. Anybody that any notification that gets sent out goes straight to the manager. Recruiters don't understand that. It goes straight to the manager, and then the manager picks up and discusses that with the recruiter. They may do that in the morning meeting, as I've suggested, or they may just pull them aside and say, right, let's sit down today and have a look at what activities you're working on. It's a really good way of sort of proactively managing jobs, making sure you're working on the right jobs as well. Application follow-up. So lots and lots of candidates apply for jobs. We're not particularly great at following up candidates sometimes and saying thank you. The journey that candidates have, 60% of candidates say they have a poor experience when working with a recruitment agency. The vast majority of that comes down to lack of engagement or lack of communication as what's going on. So you can really help turbo your recruiter's productivity by making sure that when people apply for jobs, the automation picks up a lot of that heavy lifting at the start of that journey. So, you can ask a candidate, thanks for your application. When they apply for a job and they get shortlisted against a job, you can then sort of immediately follow up and say, thanks for your application. Can you finish it off by asking the follow or answering the following questions? Now, those following questions could be the questions that your recruiters ask and manually type into Bullhorn. Why are you leaving? Those sorts of questions. They can be those subjective questions that your recruiters are asking. What specifically has made you apply for this role? Those sorts of questions that will just give a bit more context and help your recruiter make some decisions. They can track the application through the process as well. A bit like we've just talked about making sure that we're working the right jobs. Well, are we progressing the candidates through the application, and are they being rejected within a suitable time frame? So asking questions when a candidate has applied for a job is a really great way of engaging the candidate, a great way of them having a good experience. It saves the recruiter's time. Thing I would suggest is, though, don't ask too many questions at this early stage. 3, 4, 5 questions, short and sweet. Candidate wants a great experience. I've got one client currently, they've got 103 questions they ask when somebody applies for a job because they're trying to do onboarding straight away. It's way too many. They're losing people after question 4 or 5. So it's not a great experience. You need to decide what part of that journey is your workflow. Is it for everyone? Do you want to do it for temp? Do you want to do it for perm? Really think about the workflow that you take candidates through when people apply for jobs. It's really important you consider that. There's also an opportunity to talk about whether or not your recruiters need to be able to be trained on what's being sent. You should tell your recruiters what's being sent out up front. They need to understand what that journey is, what that new process could be, and you need to allow them to have time to allow that to bed in and get feedback from them. So if you're going to suddenly start interrupting how they currently do things, you need to make sure that they're all along for the ride. So automation wise, yeah, you can send an email, thank you very much, include a survey. If the candidate doesn't automatically respond within 24 hours, send it again. Use that option within the list criteria that says candidate has not taken survey or taken engagement, and then list out the survey. Make sure you also incorporate they haven't answered the first question. That's a really good way of basically making sure that they don't just open the automation or open the survey and then immediately close it. Okay, so we've got this this client. They've got 9,431 jobs open. They've had 100,000 candidates processed through that over the past 2 years. And when we analyze the data, a lot of them are just hanging. Really, really poor experience. So the idea of what we're doing with this client is we're building processes and we're putting rejection processes in place. If the job is still open after 3 months, we are going to close it automatically, and we're going to automatically reject the candidates from those jobs. Now, there's 2 reasons why we're doing that. One, we want the candidate to make sure that they've been closed down properly, but 2, the recruiters don't want the automation to do that. They want to do it themselves. So in a way, there's that chicken and egg scenario. We're threatening to close it down and automate the process of rejecting the candidate, or alternatively, the recruiter can do it themselves. And actually, the recruiters want to do it, and they're experiencing good levels of customer service when they're going back to the candidate and saying, you've been unsuccessful for this particular role. A lot of those candidates were also at the early stages. They were reviewed, they weren't rejected, they were just ignored. So that's a great way of us basically sort of closing down those candidates that just applied but were never relevant. Recruiters not engaged with them, so automatically we'll close those jobs down. So it's a really great way of just managing that job process. The other important thing about closing your jobs down properly as well, if you have analytics and you're looking at your live jobs and you're looking at your prospect and you're thinking about, I've got millions of pounds worth of potential jobs. Well, actually, if your job's been open for more than 3 months, is it still an active job? So it's really important you close your jobs down so you understand as a business leader, as a manager, actually, what is the prospect pipeline that we've got? Okay, GDPR, PECR. I come across this a lot. We either do it well or we don't do it at all, or we do a little bit here and then, but it's really, really inconsistent. GDPR was launched obviously in 2018 along with PECR. The 2 things are very different. However, most recruitment businesses really focus on GDPR. We've got your data and this is how we'll process it. However, PECR is the way in which we communicate digitally with a candidate. If we're sending emails or we're texting somebody, we should have express consent to be able to do that. That is not covered by GDPR. So what a lot of clients we're starting to talk to a lot of clients, especially in Europe, really big in Europe currently, but here in the UK as well. We looked recently at the ICO and saw some of the stats that were coming through about fines. A business was fined for reaching out to their database without express consent, and were fined something like £50,000 for doing that. So there are things you can automate to protect yourself. So first and foremost, when a candidate applies, a bit like that welcome email and that thank you for your application, just putting in there how you manage their data, how you process their data, put your privacy policy in there. There is a tool within Bullhorn Automation that will automatically update the consent module in Bullhorn. Get consent switched on if you haven't got it switched on. It's free. speak to Bullhorn support. They'll send you a little Excel spreadsheet that you can fill out, and then you get this little consent module. You can then automate basically every time you send something out. Or alternatively, if you're engaging with the candidate, you can ask a question at the beginning of the survey and use a branch. We need to be able to communicate with you. Legally, you need to give us consent. Are you happy for us to be able to talk to you on email and send you the occasional text, specifically about this role and future roles? Something along those lines. If the candidate goes yes, brilliant, carry on. If they say no, then just put a statement in there saying, thank you very much. We won't be able to talk to you. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Yeah. By them saying yes, and you're saying, do you give us express consent? Then you can use the consent module, the update tool in Bullhorn Automation, to be able to update that line and say, candidate said yes. They clicked something to say yes, they're happy for us to basically communicate with them. It's really simple, and it will protect you as a business. And it doesn't take long to get those things set up. And if you're worried about it, as is always the case, trial it first and foremost against the next 20 or 30 candidates that come through the system. See what responses you get. You might be surprised at the number of people that just go, yeah, of course I can. Yeah, and that may give you the confidence of being able to do that. So you can force it, or you can basically be a bit hard and say, well, if you're not going to give us consent, we can't help you to a certain degree. So GDPR, really important. Examples of this, we did this a couple of years ago. Client every year, they reach out to their candidate database and say, we've got your data, this is what we're going to do with it. We came up with the concept of saying, well, instead of just asking, why are we not also asking whether or not they're planning on actively looking in the next 12 months? And they were worried about the response. So we initially set up the automation to run it to, I think, to about 1,000 people. We looked at that. We looked at the bounce rates, the unsubscribe rates, the candidates came back and saying, yes, they're actively looking. The inactive candidates that just didn't respond, and those people that came back and said, thank you very much, yeah, we give you permission. We extrapolated that information. We came up with a figure of about 7.5% of the candidates we thought would come back and be proactive. Eventually, after all 300,000 people were rinsed through the system within about a month, they generated 25,000 new candidates, active candidates that were looking at that precise moment in time. That's a really good, valuable database that they were able to engage. And from that, they've gone on to really good things. The other great thing about this as well is that we noticed there was less than a 1% unsubscribe rate. So that fear of people going, oh, no, they're going to loads and loads of unsubscribes. There wasn't the reality of that, but we're able to prove that in the early stages as well. So lots of ideas there around how you can get your recruiters, and specifically how they engage with the data that you're sending through to them. That's the most important part. We're sending you this data, Mr. Recruiter, Mrs. Recruiter, to actually do something with, and it's down to leadership and management to really drive that. Bullhorn bonus tip. I talked a second ago about being able to search within tear sheets. Not many people know how to do this, which I was surprised at. So Matt has been very kindly sort of gone away and done this. This is a way in which you can start identifying information that's in your Bullhorn database based on a current tear sheet and analyzing as to whether or not I need to do something with this. When was the last time a note was added against this particular candidate or this particular sales contact? So once you run this, it'll produce a list of people. You can sort by the last note date. Same principle here for sales contacts. But the idea there is your recruiters have their own ability to be able to manage and monitor and check in with the data and the sales contacts potentially that they want. Once you've got this run once, save it as a favorite search. There it is. It takes seconds to rerun that. And that's your account management process that you need to do. Whew. Lots and lots and lots and lots of tips there. So assess your biggest drains within what your recruiters are currently doing. Where are they wasting time? Where are they ineffective? How many emails are they sending and manually writing out every single time? So analyze those drains. Build your automations and get them tested. Make sure you get feedback and analyze the results and refine where necessary. And then finally, release it to the general business. And again, once it's been released, review, feedback, refine, analyze, etc., etc.
Okay, everyone, so come to us outside of the session with questions. You've got our details. Obviously, we're available whenever you want to speak to us. So obviously send me a message, but also some of you have Wayne's contact details. Feel free to pummel him as well. Just bear in mind as well, from an improvement performance perspective, we're really interested in where you want to improve performance. It's all about which parts of the process are actually causing you the most pain. What could you speed up? Where could you apply pressure using very cool automations? And like Wayne said, use the notifications almost like a dashboard. Be a DJ, turn things up and down, do a bit of mixing. We're not going to do any more polls, don't you worry. Remember our buddy program. I always say to my clients, right, you've got 3 choices with automation. You either look at it on the drive. If it's sat, they're not quite giving you what you want. Imagine it's a Ferrari, and we're going to give you 3 choices. Either attend all of our webinars, do a crazy amount of self-paced learning, but get in the car and drive it fast and do so and look cool and be amazing. Or sit in the driver's seat, let us sit next to you as a passenger and really get you driving it better and harder and faster and more effective, driving out unnecessary cost and unnecessary time wastage. Or your third choice is that we drive it for you from a build perspective and you sit in the back and just get on with your day. Yeah. But you do not have a 4th choice of not doing anything. You do not have a 4th choice of struggling and claiming that automation is expensive and feeling a bit unhappy about the system. You've got choice 1, 2, or 3. Figure it out yourself, which, trust me, takes a lot of time to stay up to speed. Trust me, I've got a team doing that full time, and even that's challenging. Let us coach you, or let us drive it. Those are your 3 choices with automation. Reach out to us if you'd like a buddy or you'd like to have a chat about this in more detail. Don't forget as well, there's 2 parts to a successful recruitment business. One is automating whatever gets in the way of a great business. And then the second part is the humans and how effective they need to be. We are still useful creatures in the recruitment industry. Automation needs humans, and recruitment consultants are the humans to be automated to a degree. But candidates and clients need humans for them to have successful businesses and for them to have great careers. So you still need to tackle the recruitment consultants in your business. Let us help you with a free trial of Recruitment Hit. Don't forget all of our tips and tricks on our website as well. You'll get regular comments from me on your LinkedIn and via email as well. So stay subscribed to those, because there might be a game changer coming your way very soon. Don't forget to grab your camera app on your phone and register for the 2 webinars that we've got coming up in September. We'd love to see you registered. Keep us posted on how you're doing as well if you've got this already nailed. Thanks ever so much for your patience today. Really, really lovely to see you all on the webinar. Thank you for your input. We'll be sending out the recording of this later on next week. Have a great end to the week. Take care.
Bye.